Hello my friends, and welcome back to another Create Mod Beginners Tutorial Series. This is a series where I go through the fundamentals of the Create Mod, and I show you guys what I've learned and some tips and tricks on how to get started with it. Last episode, we did everything that's behind me right now and ended with the automatic wheat farm, and today's episode, we'll be doing everything over here and ending with a fuel-less smelter system, where you throw your items in, they get smelted, and they end up in a chest for you. But before we can get started with that, we have a few things we need to go over first. If you remember from last episode, we started with the mechanical press, and there's something you can do with the mechanical press to change the way it interacts with the world. You add a basin block underneath, which is crafted with andesite in a formation like this, and you get a basin. Then you can use this to create new recipes with the press. Like, instead of just pressing stuff into plates, you can take 9 iron nuggets, throw it in here, and it will compress it into an ingot. That's a way you could do automatic crafting from ingots, or from nuggets to ingots. Just an example of that, but I need to get that out of the way to lead into this one. Now with the basin again, you can make a mechanical mixer. Now this one's a little bit different, as the power source comes from a cog inside of it, so you have to move things around, and also this one needs to be sped up a little bit faster than just the base water wheel speed for it to be used. So I used the same gear speeding up system that we went over in the last episode to speed this up, and then I used a gearbox here with a cog on top, and it goes over and touches the gear on the inside of the mechanical mixer, and it's ready to go. Now the mechanical mixer without anything underneath, we'll get to that later, functions a lot like this, right? All you have to do is throw 2 ingredients in and it mixes them for you like that. That's how you get andesite from diorite and cobblestone. Now we're going to be coming back to a more advanced version of this later, but I thought I would get it out of the way early pretty on in the episode. Now the next block that we're going to be going over is the encased fan. Here's the recipe for the encased fan, with the propeller needing 4 iron sheets. It's probably a little bit more expensive than anything you've built so far, but with this encased fan, you see there's particles coming out of this. It's powered from back here, and with the speed that it's powered, you know, this is pretty slow, so it's gonna push you out slow. And also, if we change the direction of this water, now the fan is spinning the opposite way, and so it's sucking air in. You see how we're gradually moving forward that way? So the direction of the fan does matter for these next parts. If you get yourself a fan that's pushing air outward, you can put a few blocks in front of it so it can process some blocks. So you see we have a line of fans here, and we have 4 different things in front of each one. We have lava, water, a campfire, and a soul campfire. Now, a way that I like to do this, if you're having multiple fans in a line and you want them to spin all in the same direction, encased chain drives are what I regularly use. Now these are kind of like the shafts. You see how the shaft can go this way, right? But the encased chain drive goes this way across and has outputs along the way. I'm also going to introduce something just for demonstrational purposes. This is the creative motor. I'm going to be using it from here on out instead of the water wheel, just because I don't have to set up a water wheel and it puts out power that I can change variable. So don't worry about the creative motor. Just imagine that this has some sort of input. Now, do you see how all of these are spinning the same direction? It can be very useful for fans if you're trying to set up multiple in a row. This is just another logistics block that you guys can use. Very useful. But now back over to the fans. Each of these fans does a different thing to the block that you put into the fan line. So lava, we'll start with lava, and we'll be using this later on. So if we take raw iron and we throw it on the ground right in front of it, you give it a little bit, it turns into an iron ingot. So it acts as a furnace. Now you're probably wondering, how did it end up on this block down here? Now this is a depot, another logistics block, and you can just put items on and off of this to hold the items so that you can't like pick them up, and kind of like a holding chamber, if that makes any sense. So if we take some more raw iron, I can show you again. You put it on here. This fan interacts with the iron on top, and you see the smoke coming out of it. Once it's done being processed, it turns into an iron ingot, and there you have a furnace system. You know, it's kind of like a furnace, but it processes whatever you put here, and certain recipes call for lava, some of them call for campfires. A lot of foods, like let's say we have raw beef, and we put the raw beef on here. You see the white particles like the smoke coming out of it. Give it a few seconds and it turns into cooked. So water works pretty similar to lava, and we can put something like gravel on here, and this is probably the most common one that I know, because if you wash gravel you can get iron nuggets, right? And then you can make an iron farm without having to use villagers. See, that one didn't have anything, just because it's like a 10, I don't remember what the percent chance is that you can get iron from it. It is a 12% chance that you get an iron nugget, so you're probably gonna have to do a lot of gravel, right? See, nothing there, but it does work. And now the last one is the soul campfire. Best known use I know for this one is to throw stone onto it. Once the stone gets processed, we are left with infested stone. And infested stone is the kind that you put down, and then if you break it, a silverfish pops out. This one can be used for mob farms and other things, but I won't get into that right now. It's just an example to show you the 4 different blocks you can put in front of fans. So enough of the fans. We're going to get into a pretty big topic of the video here, mechanical belts. Now mechanical belts are pretty easy to craft with 6 dried kelp, and you can get a belt that will go on for, I'm not sure the exact number of blocks, but it can go on for a while. And so we'll take a look at the basic belt here. This is pretty obvious. You can stand on it, it can move you, it can move entities, you throw items on it and it can move the items. A conveyor belt does. You pick it up, you can put it on with throwing it like that. You can pick it up with a right click, helpful for moving items around. Now let me show you a small example of what this could be used for. We have an andesite funnel, which acts as a hopper, but kind of sideways. So the input is on the side here. Let me show you what I mean. You throw a block in here and it goes in and into the chest. You see? Like that. Into the chest. It's a funnel. That is just an example of a use for a belt. I'm going to show you another one in a second here, but before we get to that, I want to show you a little bit more of uses for belts and some tips on how to use them. So let's say you have 2 belts like this that are not connected and they need to go in the same direction, but you don't know how to connect them up, because if you put 2 gears here like this, then this belt spins in the wrong direction. What I do is I take 2 shafts like that on the end of each one, and I use another belt to connect it like this so that they're all moving in the same direction. It could get a little bit expensive, but if you're running belts that are long enough to where they need to be connected like this, you probably have some left over. And this can also be used on the next step with these vertical belts, where you could put a shaft here and then connect it up so that the vertical belt can spin. But I'm here to explain the rules of the vertical belts to you. So if you want to make a belt that goes up, you have to follow one rule pretty much. And this is a belt that goes up and can carry items. Later on, I'm going to show you a belt that can just go straight up, but it can't carry items. So you want to make a belt that goes up, right? But you can't just make a belt like this and then, one up and expect this to connect. See, it does not connect. What you need to do is follow the rule of, for any blocks that you go this way, like on the ground, right? Because this whole setup goes over 1, 2, 3. You need to make sure that your connecting shaft also goes up 1, 2, 3, like this. So now if we power this belt and we throw something on it, it goes up. You see that? And the example I had over there doesn't work because the belts don't connect. This will also scale up as much as you want until you reach the belt's maximum length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you see that connects and looks good. That one took me a little bit to figure out, but once I got the hang of it, it was pretty easy. Another one is something that I still haven't gotten the hang of, and that is making belts turn and how to connect the power. So we'll start over here and pretend like these are just 2 belts that are powered. You put one on here and it feeds to this belt and then it goes to the end. How do you power this, right? Because you can't make a cog that connects here and it can't connect to this belt in any way. So the way I figured out how to do it is with gearboxes. I'll show you how to set this up. When you have a belt here, you connect this one to this, right? There's empty space in between here, and you can use a shaft and you can right click on it and it will put a shaft inside of the belt like that. Now you can take a gearbox and it has an output over here, but this is still not spinning the right way, so another gearbox will make it spin the opposite way. There's already a shaft on the inside here. Make sure you have one shaft like that, and then you have a belt that transfers its power along with it. This works in both directions. You have one that goes this way as well. I think that's all I have to say about this. There are multiple other ways you can do turns and stuff. This is just a one tip that I have that maybe you'll find useless, or not useless, useful. Please don't find any of this useless. If you do, let me know what's useless, and next time I'll try to say, oh, that's useless, don't use that anymore. Now there are 2 other things I want to show you before I move on to the next section. You have these belts that you can do vertical, like you have 2 things like this. Right click with your belt, right click again, and it makes a vertical belt. And you can do vertical belts like this as well. I guess these are technically both vertical because you can't put items and they don't interact. This is more for transferring power along different belt lines, like vertical or power that needs to be standing up like that. And the last thing I want to show you here is with casings and decorating the belts. You can dye belts like this with any dye, and then using a water bucket on it can clear the dye off. Just one way to customize them. And if you right click with a casing, it does not consume the casing, it just adds a little bit of decoration. You see, like that. And you can do that with a brass casing as well, which we will get to in a little bit, but it's just for decoration in case you're wondering. Now, how can we apply this knowledge of belts and funnels to create something that's automated? So what we can do is have a chest, an andesite funnel, a belt running out of the andesite funnel, and then we have this mixer and basin. Remember I showed you from earlier? With this basin, we can automate the creation of andesite. So if we put diorite, cobblestone in this chest, it will go over here along the belt, get put into this basin, the basin will start mixing, and you see I put a filter on the basin for the andesite, and once that gets made, it gets put out onto this depot. Now watch. So we put our blocks in, they come out, they go in, it starts mixing, and once it's done mixing, it gets outputted onto here, and we have andesite. So that's a little bit of a way to automate something small. You can do that with any recipe that the mixer requires you to automate with, and that's all for that section. Now on to the last section, brass. Now brass is a alloy created with copper and zinc, and an alloy means you mix two metals together. But you can't just mix them in the basin alone. They need to be heated. So you're gonna have to go get yourself a blaze burner. This is how a blaze burner is crafted. What you wanna do with this is you wanna click on a blaze with it, and then you can capture the blaze inside the blaze burner. I'm just gonna show you real quick. So you have a blaze, you're in the nether, right? You're running at it with an empty blaze burner, and you pick it up, and I think it went in my inventory. Yes, it did. A blaze burner, and then you can put that down. It looks like that. So once you have your blaze burner underneath your basin, the way I like to think about this is treat a blaze burner like a furnace. Anything you put in a furnace to fuel it, you can put in a blaze burner to make it into its active state. So you can use a stick, you can use coal, you can use a bunch of sticks, you can use a bunch of coal, and it will put it into the active state where it is heating the block above it. If you take your copper and zinc, and now once you mix it, it will turn into brass. Pretty simple. Just remember, treat this like a furnace. Anything you put in a furnace to heat it, you can put in a blaze burner. Once you have this brass, there's one more thing I need to show you before we can get to this final farm. And you see we have a brass funnel over here, but I haven't taught you how to make everything in a brass funnel, because you know how to make this, you know how to make this, you don't know how to make this. Now, you know how to make the iron sheet, right? Polished rose quartz comes from rose quartz, which is nether quartz and redstone. But how do you go from rose quartz to polished rose quartz? So you're gonna need sandpaper, and you have your rose quartz, right? Now, a way I like to do this is, one way you can do it is you can throw it on the ground and then hold your sandpaper, and it does that. You can have your sandpaper in one hand, press F, put your rose quartz in the other, hold down, and it polishes it like this, and you get polished rose quartz. Then you can take that polished rose quartz with an iron sheet to create an electron tube, and now you have your recipe for a brass funnel. Once you have your brass funnel, I can show you how to set up this smelting system where you put raw items in here and smelted items come out here. So we have a fan blowing through the lava. We've already been over that. We have a chute. We've been over that, how the items, it acts as a hopper and items move downward. And we have a brass funnel. Now this is pretty new, so I'm gonna go over this in a little bit of detail. A brass funnel has a spot for a filter on the front, which makes it different than an andesite funnel. And you can also change the amount of items that go in and out of the brass funnel. If you see this filter, you can make it like, if there's items, it can go up to anything equal to 64, equal to 1. You can change the amount that it goes into. And if you use a block on thing down here, you can set a filter so only those blocks come out or go in. Because over here, I can show you, you can change the direction. You see those arrows pointing towards the chest? You can change them to pointing out, and everything comes out. So for our little smelter thing, we want things to be pointing in. All we need to do is take our finished ingot that we want, you see iron, put it on the filter, and then take our raw iron and put it over here inside of the top chest. It will funnel down. It'll go into the line of the fan, pretty close to the lava, but don't worry about it for now. This is just an example. And once it's done being smelted, this will pick it up, and then we have iron ingots. Now, one last thing I want to mention about the fan is it doesn't matter the speed that the fan is going. It will always process the items the same speed. But if you have more fans facing the area that's being processed, it will speed it up. So you could have a fan at 1 RPM, and it will still smelt as fast as a fan that's at 256 RPM. It won't push the items as fast. It will just smelt the same speed. So now you know how to set this up. You can, set this up in your world, have a little smelter, an auto smelter. And yeah, I think that's it for this video, this tutorial video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope some of this was helpful. I hope you're enjoying the series. I think this is day 6. Yeah, this is day 6 because tomorrow is the special video. I think. We'll see. Hopefully no one quotes me on that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hope it was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And I will see you guys in the next one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.